On the outside, today's guest looked like he had it all. A thriving career as a financial trader in Chicago, a life that many would envy, and the kind of success that makes people assume you've just got everything figured out. But behind that polished exterior, he carried a heavy truth, a constant drive to push harder, do more, and prove himself. That pressure left him feeling unfulfilled within, disconnected from his family, and trapped in a cycle of striving without peace. Now everything changed in 2017, when he found himself caught in the middle of the Las Vegas mass shooting. In that life or death moment, he was struck with the realization that if it had all ended right then, he would leave this world profoundly unhappy. That awakening set him on an inner quest, one that would take him from chasing outer success to uncovering true peace, self-love, and freedom within. Now in this episode, you'll hear the story of that journey, the lessons he learned along the way, and how life feels now that he's come through to the other side. This conversation will pull on your heartstrings and inspire you to find your own vision of peace. So with that being said, please give me a big hand in welcoming my man and brother, Cal Callahan, to the show. Cal Callahan, my cosmic brother, man, am I excited to be joined here with you today. You know, for everyone tuning in, as I said in the intro, I met Cal back in, I think it was 2022 when I originally went on that podcast tour. It was such a fun time, man. Shlomo was there, who produces our this podcast. For the listeners that don't know, shout out to Shlomo. And that trip was so fun. I did Kyle's podcast. I did your podcast. I did Aubrey's podcast. I think I did Amy Edwards, and I did Josh Trent. And it was just such a fun time. 10 episodes in 5 days. It was crazy. We did some great episodes. And so it was so much fun, man. And one of the things I realized right off the bat is that Cal is someone who's got some codes figured out when it comes to life in general, when it comes to family, you know, when it comes to finance. I mean, you have a very extensive background in finance and everything like that. And we're going to get into your journey in just a second here. But one of the things I immediately noticed about you is how open your heart is. Like, it's very rare for me to meet someone of a caliber that someone could look at and be like, whoa, they're so successful financially and things like that, that still has that innocence within them. You know, that open heart. I remember the first time I got to your house, you welcomed me with open arms. You're like, come check out the house. I felt like we just got bunk beds, you know, like from Step Brothers. Like, I felt like we just became best friends. So I'm super excited to have you here. And before we dive into your story, man, how are you doing today, brother? How's it feel to be here with me?
Well, as I said before, before we started recording, people often say life's never been better. Mine is literally, I'm 53, and in my 53 years, it has never been better than this moment right now. Dude. And I say that with all sincerity. So yes, life is good.
That's awesome, dude. You know, it's funny. We both know Mark England, good friend of both of ours. Have you met Adam Chin before?
Absolutely. Adam's been on the podcast.
Hell yeah. So me, Adam, Mark, we're all super close. We do a bunch of crazy get-togethers down at Mark's farm and stuff. And one of the things that I've said for years that now we created kind of like a team around that now you're officially part of is the hashtag Team No Peak Club, right? Things just get better and better. We never peak. And so it was funny when you were mentioning that because I'm like, dude, that's literally Team No Peak in a nutshell. So I'll take synchronicity for 500, please.
Yes.
So good.
You got it, Alex.
So good, dude. So, you know, I'm really curious, Cal, because I've heard parts of your journey, but, you know, considering everything I said, right, of you being able to have this innocence at a point in life where typically for the average, say 53-year-old, I mean, first of all, they don't look like you. Okay. You're ripped for your age, game recognized game. But second of all, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they're typically not where you are. And I imagine a lot of them tune into this podcast and they're going to be curious what these codes are that you hold within you, these secrets, right? So I'd love if you could share your journey with us, your hero's journey, you know, how you got to be right here today, and maybe some of the things that have been the most pivotal moments for you in life. Like some of the things that maybe really, as you look back in hindsight, you can say like, yeah, I'm grateful I made that decision because if I didn't, I don't know where I'd be right now. Anything that comes out like that.
Yeah, man. And I'll just lead with, I was on a podcast yesterday and I say this with all humility, and you know I do. And just so for the listeners who don't know me, I do say this with humility, but he said that I'm literally the happiest rich guy he knows, right?
Yeah, dude, it's true.
And I'm like, I received that. And, for a long time, I presented that way. But there was a lot that I was holding underneath the surface. But I, like you. I'm a strong man who can put that front up. But things have shifted quite recently, and there's certainly a lot of things that have happened in my life, but I think it probably makes the most sense to talk about what happened in 2017 in Las Vegas. I was at the mass shooting. And at that point, I had spent 18 years in Chicago as a trader. I was really a successful trader as far as, the financial piece goes. It really suited my personality. I loved the team that I traded with. I was just super fortunate to come under the right mentor in that world, because as you can imagine, as in probably any business, whether it's lawyers, the cannabis industry, there's a lot of guys that are a little bit questionable. I happen to have a guy that had very high integrity and was a family man, family first. And so that was ingrained in me from a very young, age in my career. And so I spent 18 years there. I got out in 2013, moved down to Austin with my family, did a few other things, and was like living a great life. Anybody on the outside, anybody looking at my Instagram, anybody who knew me was like, fuck, like you did it. You got it figured out. And I felt that way too, to a certain degree. I played the game that we're all conditioned to play. And I won to a degree that I would have never imagined in my younger years, growing up in a small town in Maine of 5,000 people. And yet there was this unease that I probably didn't have awareness of until much later in this journey. But I recognized as I started to wake up in 2017, October 1st, I was at the Route 91 Music Festival in Las Vegas. I was at the mass shooting. And without going too much into the details, people know it, I was with one of my close friends. We were behind the tour buses, which were between us and the shooter, potentially more shooters, but like as the narrative goes, the shooter from Mandalay Bay. And in that span of, let's call it 10 plus minutes that this was unfolding, I just had this felt sense that if I didn't make it out of there, that I was pretty disappointed with my life. And I never felt that way. I was really happy with how things were going and the people I was meeting and my family. And there was just something that occurred to me at a soul level. It was the only thing I can imagine, that I had won the wrong game in a sense. I won a game, but it wasn't what I was meant to do here. And without knowing, for the next 18 months, I went into it. It took me 18 months to understand that's what awoke in me. But I was on this deep existential inquiry, like, why the fuck am I here? Because it wasn't for what they told me it was, because I did that and I am not fulfilled. I'm not happy. And as you know, this brother, you mentioned him earlier, I got back. So that happened on a Sunday. I got back on a Monday. And on Tuesday, I went down to Onnit, which was Aubrey Marcus's company. And I was doing NAD IV therapy. I'd done it before I left for the summer, and I was going to start it up again. And I was going to do 8 sessions, which at that time I wasn't real strong at doing it. So it took me an hour and a half, 2 hours each session, which was a fucking blessing. Because I met on that first day, that Tuesday, I met Kyle Kingsbury. And I don't know if anybody has had a greater impact on my life than him. The portal that he opened me up to, the journey he shepherded me on, was one that I never knew existed. It certainly involves psychedelics. I had done mushrooms before, but the festival dose with booze and all that, I didn't understand any of it. But he would teach me about fasting. He would teach me about, conspiracy theories that are, commonly called conspiracy theories. We know they're generally, conspiracy truths.
Yeah.
And it just opened my world up. It's like, oh, this actually, I don't know that it's true cognitively, but it's landing for me. This makes sense. And within a month of that Las Vegas experience, I had my first heroic dose of psilocybin with Kyle and another friend. And as you know, these things have the ability to open up a completely new world. And that said, I made the mistake that many of us make. That when I had the experience and I saw all the things, I saw many of the blind spots. Or as it turns out, I saw a couple of them. They were big, but just a couple of many. And I thought I had it figured out. Like, we're good. Told my wife, I get it. We were in a real tough spot. And I thought we were good. Within 2 months, we're having dinner, my wife and I, on Christmas vacation. And I had this sense that, oh no, we may split up. What happened? I just didn't understand how important integration was. Mm-hmm. And so I, kind of went back to the altar with the prayer of what am I not seeing? I'm hurting people that I don't want to hurt, but I seem to do it unconsciously. And so I kept showing up and 7+ years later, I understand the prayer was, what are my blind spots? What am I not seeing? What is the programming that's still being run? What are the agreements I've made consciously, unconsciously that are running my life in affecting me this way and affecting the ones I love? And so with that, and showing up at many different altars, obviously I mentioned plant medicine, going to 5-day silent retreats. The cold plunge is an altar, right? The sauna, the workout space. It shows up in many different ways, but it was always what am I not seeing? And it was really also back then, it was how do I fix myself? I'm lacking. I need this. Maybe this will fix me, right? And so many of us, I tried all the things, and they all had an impact, some greater than others. I would say quite recently, within the last, couple of years, I finally sat with the grandmother. I sat with ayahuasca. And again, I'm proud of myself for waiting for the time, because it came into my field soon after the first mushroom experience, because I wanted to learn all about plant medicine. And I waited. And when I say I had a murderer's row of facilitation in the group, it was so perfect and it moved so much for me. And then I sat again a year later, and then I did something that would be considered a bit unorthodox. You're in dieta for 2 weeks after. So for people who don't know, you're still eating the same diet that's, no red meat, no pork, no salt, no sugar. It's very limited. And you're not to do plant medicines at all. A week after that experience, I got invited to do 5-MeO DMT. And I had done it before twice. Let me rephrase that. I thought I had done it before twice. And it was pitched to me quite honestly, look, it can be a microdose, and you can just be in the space with a few of your brothers, and it could be a really somewhat, I don't want to say control, but very whatever. I checked with my facilitator. I go, what do you think about this within the time frame? He's like, if you feel called to it, I totally trust. I'm like, all right, great. We sit in the circle. I asked the question, of the facilitator right before, and I said, the first time I did this, I know you're meant to take 3 long pulls and then you blast off. I go, the first time I did it, I took 1 and I blasted off. Everything got fracked. And again, I didn't blast off like I did this time, but he's like, well, kind of what your orientation is to this. So just go with that. And he set the pipe up to me, and I took the longest motherfucking pull I've ever taken in anything. And I had the experience that people talk about. And I won't even try to describe it here because, as you know, words fail. But I got it. I felt so held. I understood that while I may have free will and agency, I am held by the universe in ways that I can't comprehend, but I felt. And that's what I needed. I don't know if everybody's this way, but I can listen to podcasts like this one. I can read books. I can talk to people. But until I have the felt experience, I don't know it. And I understood what it means to be held by the universe. And so, dude, this was like, oh my God, it wasn't even it was 2 months ago. It feels like at least a year ago. It was fucking 2 months ago. It's so fascinating. And so, sure, I'm highlighting plant medicines here. There were so many other things that really coalesced to support me on this journey. And honestly, part of it was my will to get to this point. And why I bring that up is when I was on this journey, when I couldn't put words to what I was doing because I didn't understand what I was looking for, it got scary for my wife because she didn't understand. I mean, I didn't really understand. I was just trusting. And so I couldn't really give her any real sense of calm in some of these seasons because I didn't know what was going on. But I had to trust that I knew what I was doing, even though she didn't understand, and it maybe caused some friction. And you can imagine my dear brothers that maybe aren't active in this space. They're asking me, like, dude, what are you looking for? What the fuck? Like, you have this amazing life. Like, why do you keep putting yourself in these situations? Like, why can't you just be happy? It was like, they just didn't understand. And at first I was kind of like, fuck them. Like, yeah. They don't know. And then I understood they love me so much. They're just fucking scared. And it was all love. It didn't necessarily come out that way, but it was so much love. They were just scared. And they know that I have an open heart. They know that I could be taken advantage of. And that's been part of my journey, is to see that and to have that happen. And just on some level, just trusting that I was doing the right thing. And, I say all this to for so long, I would sit at the altar in meditation and tell myself I have gratitude for all the hard things that happen and the shitty things I've done and the shitty things that have maybe been done to me. And I would intellectually try to grasp that. But it wasn't until recently that it's like, I fucking see it all. It's the most perfect orchestration of my life, not by me, but by something else. And I see it. And I bless every fucking bit of it. And because of that, and because I was just oriented to it anyway, it's made me such a more present parent. I can't describe the connection I have with each of my kids, and it continues to deepen. My kids people talk about your kids being your greatest teachers, and I saw that. I have so much reverence and respect and awe for my kids because I feel like I see them at a soul level and they see that and feel that. And I see them expanding and stepping into who they are outside the framework of what society says they're supposed to do. In one of my kids in particular, oh my God, he is. If you looked at it from the outside, you're like, he's content creating. Where I was like, this kid loves his life so much. And he has so much love for me witnessing him doing the thing he loves and learning about something that I know fucking nothing about, but I'm so curious. And he speaks to me on a level that I understand that, again, I can't really put it into words. It's a felt experience that he and I know. Mm-hmm. And it's just affirmation that fucking I'm doing something right. And I don't know what to say other than your kids are your teachers. Witness them. If you don't understand, don't layer your shit onto them, because I did that. I tried to do it lovingly. I tried to do it as a guy who's done a lot and figured out some shit. They need to have their own journey. They need to make their own mistakes. They need to know that they're safe and they are loved and validated in whatever they're feeling, even if you don't understand it. Just meet them where they're at, and I guarantee you, your life will fucking change and your kids will blow you away.
Dude, holy shit, bro. That was so fucking epic. And I wrote down some notes, bro, because there's so many synchronicities in what you just said to what I've been going through. And, again, I'll kind of just start with my notes, pick up. But, I think that one of the reasons that going that deep into your own psyche and going that deep into your own shadows can help you feel so free and blissful on the other side is like Carl Jung states, no tree's branches can reach to heaven if its roots don't first reach to hell. It's all about polarity, right? Like the more that we can own and love even the parts of us that we somewhere along the way deemed were dark, dirty, not good, whatever society told us, if we can show up with love to those parts, you better fucking believe we're going to see a positive reinforcement on the other side of that. Because again, we are the whole. We're playing out a dream illusion here in which we are something or someone. And so it's interesting that where we come from, our true reality is oneness. And so no amount of somethingness, aka the job, the money, whatever, is ever going to make us feel whole because it's still somethingness. And so when we explore our shadow, when we choose to go into something that we otherwise wouldn't really like to go into, our preferences are like, oh, it's icky and whatever. What do we find there? Oh, just other parts of ourselves that we're calling up for some love. That at some point in our journey, someone, something, etc., told us, don't show up that way. Don't do that. Good boys or girls don't do that. Whatever. And again, it's not even to blame our parents. They learned that from their people, or our teachers learned it from their parents. Like, no one is to blame here. And also, it gets to be our responsibility, because I got to imagine, right? If we are God, which I choose to believe, if everything here is God experiencing itself, well, what a more interesting game for God to play than the one where it essentially Men in Blacks itself and plays a game in which it has to, completely forget it's God. And then halfway through the life, hopefully anyway, it starts remembering that its true purpose, its true place of residence, if you will, is wholeness, which isn't going to really occur if we're looking external. It all comes from within, right? Like you were talking about. And one of the things too is that, of course, right? Of course, our kids can help us in that way. And I'm not even a parent, but I understand this, because think about it this way, right? If our soul, right, aka our memory of God, is a clear windshield when we come into this world, right? We're a baby. We can't even say words yet. So we're just completely still with God for the most part. And then as we start to grow up, we're rewarded at 6 years old for having an ego, having an identity, going to school. And so again, right, like this is no one's fault necessarily, it's just the way the world's working. And so again, it makes the game of God way more fun, right? Because it wouldn't be fun if the second you're born, you're like, hey, you're God, and then you never get to be a human, right? That wouldn't make the game that fun. So what you have to do is almost like the prodigal son, right? Through your early years and as you get into teenage years and 20s, 30s, et cetera, you're essentially the one saying, hey, I have everything I need in my home, but I'm going to choose to go out there and see what awaits me. And then at a certain point, you realize that no matter how deep you go into the world, it doesn't feel like home. And so then the goal is, how do I remember what I've forgotten? And how do I remember what I literally forgot I've even forgotten? And that's where plant medicine, of course, comes in. But at the same time, you know, allowing yourself to see images of people that still remember more than you, like kids, right? They're not as far away from God, metaphorically, as we are. You know, again, and by we, I mean people that maybe are like us 5-10 years ago, right? Like didn't know any of this. We're just going after the goals in life. And again, there's nothing bad with that. But when we see a child, why do so many people love babies so much? Is it just because they're cute? I mean, that's a big portion of it. But it's also because I think deep down we know, like, dude, they remember something we've forgotten on a visceral level. And so when we get to look at a child or we hang out with a teenager or whatever, it's almost like if we allow them to be who they are, we get to see ourselves with a clearer windshield than we remember at this point in time. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and you know, it brings up another Joseph Campbell quote, and I'm try to get this right, but it's like in the cave you fear the most is the treasure you seek, and it's like that was been in the back of my mind when I go into that ayahuasca ceremony. You know, after night 2 being the most terrifying experience of my life that happened twice within the same night, I showed up. And I went back a year later knowing that that can happen. And, you know, I'm 53. 2 weeks ago, I was back home in Maine celebrating my mom's 75th birthday. When I tell you that from when I left there, so I went to boarding school for a couple of years, and just if anybody is fucking curious, I didn't go because we were rich. I went, I went because it was an opportunity to get some more schooling. I was a good student. I want to play an extra year of hockey before I went to college. So, like, I didn't grow up a rich kid by any means. Not that it fucking matters, but just,
for context. Yeah.
Since I left, and I went to boarding school, and I did well, and I got into Amherst College. At that time, was the #1 liberal arts college in the country. And then I went on to a trading career that was financially successful. I got married. I had kids, amazing friends. I was doing amazing things. I was living the life. Every time I would go home, and I didn't realize this until I was home this past time, I carried the weight of incredible expectations. Not that my mom put on me, not that my dad put on me, but that I put on me. And I didn't realize how heavy that burden was because I never truly enjoyed going back home. I went back to be a good son, to be a good brother, to check the box and get out of there. I was not present. I was not where my feet were. And for a long time, until quite recently, I never was where my feet were. When I was home, and I've talked about these plant medicine journeys that were so healing, I had the single most, I don't say this lightly, the single most healing experience of my life. It was the night after my mom's birthday party. We had a small gathering at this little Airbnb that we rented on a lake that was tiny. That was a town of 3,000 people that was right next to the town I grew up in. I didn't even know there was a fucking lake there. This town, as far as I was concerned when I was growing up, was a shit town. And I was just sharing. I got a tattoo earlier that day. I got a tattoo. My daughter got a tattoo. My son got a tattoo. My wife got a tattoo. My sister got a tattoo. My brother-in-law got a tattoo. My two nieces got tattoos. We just did it spontaneously. It's the only tattoo I've ever gotten. And I was just sharing, I got these two butterflies. And I might as well show you.
Yeah, dude, you got to show me, dude.
So
Oh, dude.
that's them.
That's so
and
cool.
I chose the butterflies for a couple of reasons consciously at that time. I have a super deep connection with my daughter. Just dropped her off at college. It was heartbreaking. No, it was heart aching. It was so beautiful. And I'm so excited for this. She's going to fucking blossom like I can't even imagine. And because our love and our bond is so deep, it's really hard not to see her every single day of my life. And so I just wanted something that was connected to her. Well, she got two butterflies on her wrist, and they were different butterflies. And so I'm like, I love that idea. And so we chose the two butterflies I was going to get. And for me, they represented me. One was me and my transformation. In the other one, and I wouldn't have said it a week earlier, the other one was for all the women in my life. My wife, my mother. This is in no particular order. My daughter, my sister, and my niece, Lindsay. For these women that have held me and just waited for me with so much love and grace and patience, and just seeing me. And all they've wanted is for me to come home. And I was sharing this with Peyton, my wife. She was sitting on my lap in a chair like this, and I just started getting super emotional. And my mom walks up and just sees that I'm crying, and she just is like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And just checking on me. And Peyton, in her wisdom, just quietly gets up, and my mom sits down, and my sister comes up next to me. And I just say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it's taken me this long, but I'm home. I have so much love for all of this. I have so much reverence. Thank you for your patience and just loving me through this. When I couldn't love myself, I couldn't truly love them because of that. And they just kept showing up for me in ways that I never understood until that moment. And I just, in that moment, I forgave myself. I let down the weight. I came home physically and metaphorically. And it was just like, holy fuck, this just happened. And I felt so light. And from that moment 2 weeks ago, it's only fucking 2 weeks. What?
Time isn't even linear, you know?
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder.
Of course.
I continue to get more and more clear. I continue to get more and more free from the programming and from the agreements that I've made. And I can say quite confidently today, I just had this session at a place called Matter. It's a biohacking wellness lounge. They have this thing called the theta chamber, which is the thing you lay down in and it spins. And for 30 minutes, it puts you into the theta brainwave. And I had the fucking mother of all downloads. I saw it all. And I saw in particular, I had this notion yesterday. I said, I think I want less followers on Instagram. I fucking love doing the podcast, but the number one thing I love about the podcast, without question, is the intimacy of the conversation that I'm having with the individual. That's it. I love it as an act of service for people to listen. Absolutely. I feel like I'm here to share the journeys of the people that come on my podcast. And when invited to share what I've learned and what I've experienced like I am today. And so I think that's a real gift, and I really enjoy sharing that. And I started to realize what I love about the men's group is the intimacy of the conversations, whether it's one-on-one or a group of 3 or a group of 10, whatever. I enjoy the privacy of that, because with privacy, you get intimacy. I won't name the influencer, but I was at a biohacking conference here in Austin, and he came up to say hello and maybe have a conversation, and he had his camera crew there. And I'm like, what level of intimacy are you going to get from me right now? I'll tell you what, nothing.
Yeah.
Because, what are we doing? And I understand we have cameras when we're on a podcast, but there's an intention for us to share. And so I just started to clock all these things. And it's like, I love privacy. Like, I even consider, like, maybe I take the podcast private, whatever that means. I don't know. And I was like, maybe I make this proclamation on Instagram. Like, I actually want less followers. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that, because that might go viral and I'll get more followers. Well, then if that happens, I'll just shut down the account and I'll start a new one, and I'll start from zero. Like, all this stuff was just like, it was starting to make sense of like, all this programming's coming in about what I'm supposed to do, because I want the voice to be amplified. Do I actually want no. I think it's cool when people listen. I want the intimacy of this conversation, because I get to learn through our experience and then I get to go into my playground, into my classroom, and experience it for myself. And so all this is coming through. It's very clear, so much. And then the ego is like, try to remember this, because this is fucking gold. And then I'm like, the soul's like, no, you have access to this at all times. There's no remembering anything. It's already there. So let it go and be in the experience. And it was like, that's fucking liberating. I got to journal this. I got to remember. It's like, no, fuck no. And so then, dude, there was this like 10-day period in the spring where 3 like really cool things happened. I shot a commercial with Ricky Fowler for Puma in Reigning Champ.
Sick.
Ricky's a close friend. I do a fucking national, well, it's a global commercial because it was shown during the British Open. Like, I do a fucking commercial. I'm a heckler. Heckling Ricky. Like, I'm a fucking actor in the fucking in the commercial. It's like, holy fuck, that's cool. A couple days later, a clip from my podcast with Chase Hughes talking about the DMT laser experiment gets shown on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Dude.
What the fuck? Then, at the end of that week, I had been invited a month earlier. A dear friend of mine played in the NHL, played for the St. Louis Blues, has been battling leukemia, and they were doing their 2nd annual fundraiser for him. The Chicago Blackhawks alumni versus St. Louis Blues alumni. The Blackhawks didn't have a goalie. I played goalie. I played goalie in college at Amherst College. I didn't play in the NHL. I hadn't played for 8 years. He called me up and asked if I would come and play goalie for them. Wow. And luckily, I just listened. I said, yes, I'll fucking do anything for you. Yes. And I hang up the phone and I'm like, I haven't fucking played in 8 years. I didn't play in the NHL. I haven't worked out in a long time. Like, all the reasons to have the fear. But I had a dear brother here, Stephen Young, who had shared with me this idea to whatever you've done in the past, do the opposite. It allows you to live on the other edge of what that experience is. And so I just said, fuck all that. I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to get on the ice beforehand. I didn't get my equipment down from the attic until the day of the flight. I didn't even know if I had all my equipment. I didn't know if my skates were sharpened. I just said, fuck it. I'm just going to be present to the experience. I get on the ice. Again, I'm literally the only guy who didn't play in the NHL, and a lot of these guys are in the Hall of Fame. I bring all this up because today I understood that the universe, my creator, whoever is pulling the strings, gave me the experience of being on TV, gave me the experience of being on Joe Rogan, gave me the experience of playing in the NHL without making me famous from the commercial, without having me be on Joe Rogan for, I don't know what I would be on there for, but without being more public with who I am and playing in the NHL without having to carry the weight of I'm a guy who played in the NHL, and so I need to show up that way publicly as a persona because I have a lot of friends who played, and I just see that. I see that in public. And so this whole privacy thing all landed for me. It's like, oh, I get to do all the things that those guys get to do, and no one knows who the fuck I am. And so I just like, if I happen to start getting more popular and people start knowing who I am, that's when I shut it down because I crave that intimacy, that privacy, because within that is what is fucking connection, and that's all of us are searching for. And I have it. I have it in ways that I never thought were possible, and it is so sacred to me that I will fucking burn everything down to do. I will shut down the podcast and just have conversations one-on-one if that's what it means. And I never understood that because for so long, even though I did a good job of hiding it, I was searching for external validation in so many different ways. And right now, I don't lack a fucking thing. I don't care. I don't fucking care. I feel so complete. Doesn't mean the journey's over. It just means I am free from all that programming, all the shit that has been running my life. And I bless it because, as you said, I needed to experience it. And I experienced it in a deep motherfucking way. So I understand it. You know, it's like, I got it. I'm filled. I'm good. Thank you. Fucking thank you. It was a hell of a ride. And here I am, like, just so blessed.
Dude, you know, it's so many synchronicities, dude. I don't even know where to start. I mean, I'll start here because I put a note on it, but I've been totally ridiculously obsessed for the past about 3 years with this idea. I call it a high-dia because I got it when I was connecting with cannabis, but you know, my official term for downloads to come in the plant medicine space, high-dias. All right, it's a good pun, but I
fucking love it,
dude. They're so cool. They drop right into the mail slot, as Eileen Dan McCusick says. And, you know, I feel them come in like through the back of my head. Like, you know, it's kind of weird because it's the feeling, but like they come right in through the back of my head and they pop right into the front. And then it's like, boom, I could just see it with clairvoyance. And one of the ones that really got me, you know, those things that like you hear it once and you're like, oh, it's cool. Then you think about it again and you're like, that's like actually really cool. And then like by like the third year in, you're like, dude, this is my whole life now. Like, this is what happened, right? So I got this download. It's easier to add than subtract. And I was like, the fuck does that mean? And so originally I was like, okay.
Exactly my thoughts. I'm like, I really fucking hope you're going to explain this.
Yeah. I got you. Don't worry. I'm doing a good foreshadowing here. So here's what happens, right? So I start thinking into it more and I start realizing, just like you were saying, right? It's so easy for us to say, oh, we got to go journal, or we got to go get the new supplement, or we got to get a coach, or whatever. Add. I got to get the podcast out to more people. I got to make a new program. I got to, you know, do more discovery calls. I got to figure out how to market better. I got to do sales, like whatever the fuck it is, right? I got to, you know, buy more things for the kids. I got to bring my wife on more trips, whatever it is, right? Adding. The ego loves adding, and it's very safe for most of us. It feels like we're doing the right thing when we keep adding. You know what's actually a lot harder? Subtracting. And the thing is, think about this, right? Imagine, and this is an analogy built off my actual life, okay? But picture you have a dinner table, all right? And it's the place where you and your family, when you're a young kid or whatever, you grew up eating there, and you make memories there, and you hear about each other's days and whatever. Then you get a little bit older, and you don't really notice it at first, but maybe someone fills up one seat of the table with other stuff, right? Just like nonsense, like papers, documents, whatever. And it's like, hey, it's not that big of a deal. We can still eat dinner here. It's all good. And then eventually you get a little bit older and you're kind of not wanting to eat at the table. So you eat in front of the TV, you're up in your room or whatever as a teenager. And so Maybe your parents start filling papers on the other seat. They're like, we don't need this anymore. But now since you're not eating there, they don't really eat there either. So then one of your parents is like, well, I'll put the tape papers here. And then before you know it, the whole table is just, it doesn't even look like a table. You don't even remember there's a table there. You walk by it every day on your way to get something out of the kitchen, and you don't even notice this place that you used to have create memories at. And then one day you stop and you realize, wait a minute, this used to be a dining room table under there. Now, in that sense, would you add more papers to it to bring it back to a dining room table? Or would you subtract from what's already on there to reveal what's always been? And that I really feel is such a big answer for me. And it's very similar for what you're describing, is that men especially, I imagine women too, but I'm not going to speak from a woman's perspective. You guys can do that yourselves, women out there. But for men, I know it's like, you got to get the college degree. You got to, provide. You got to make more money. You got to do all these things. There's no reason why. There's obviously a reason why so many of us feel soulless with that. It's like we're filling our table with so many papers. Now, again, is our papers inherently bad? No. But what happens is we're told what papers are valuable for us. And so we start stacking a lot of stuff there that at some point we may start realizing, I don't even think anything on this dining room table is useful. And that's where the midlife crisis happens if you're not aware of what we're talking about, right? It's just your whole thing is like, I don't even know who I've been living for. And in that moment, the thing is, do I go buy a Corvette? It's like, no, that's more adding, right? That's just more adding. You got to start taking away, getting still, right? Getting more peace into your peace of mind. Going to places like your family's house in Maine. I mean, Maine is like the best spot. I mean, their slogan, the way life should be. It's totally right. I live 2 states away from Maine. So again, like it's in the silence, it's in the subtraction that you start to actually realize what was always there. It's like in a deep mushroom journey, the fact that you're so present because it's such an intense feeling, it creates full presence. And then before you know it, the feelings start to subside and boom, you're just open to the Akashic records and you're just sitting there in bed or wherever you are. And you've never felt more at peace. You're literally staring at a ceiling and you don't need anything. There's nothing you need for. You're just in full bliss. And then what happens when you come out of that, the daily tasks, everything, and before you know it, you're piled up again. But that's, I think, the argument for things like meditation, breath work. Like, I don't know about you, but when I got into these things, they were checklist items. It was like, oh, people say I should meditate, so I'll meditate. I never really knew what I was meditating for until I started to have those visceral experiences of, oh my God, just like you were saying, I don't need to write any of this down. If I can access it now, I can always access it. And I know exactly where to find it so long as my table isn't full up of shit and I forget it's a table. Pretty interesting.
I fucking love that analogy because it does. It gives you it gives you like a visual, right? Yeah. And we all understand that. And it's a beautiful analogy. And as you would say, like, thank God we're stacking papers on the table so that we can find out remember. And it's about staying earnest in the journey and trusting when everything is telling you to put more fucking papers on there. And I have a two that just come to mind right now of papers that I've taken off the table that, again, were something that I was dogmatic about. One, working out. You mentioned I'm in great shape, da-da-da. I went and played that hockey game beginning of April. I worked out one time in March because I had a friend in town. He wanted to work out with Lance Armstrong, so we did that, right? I literally, not kidding, I have not worked out since. And I finally understood after, trying to not judge myself for not working out. I finally understood maybe a month ago. I'm like, oh, I don't want to fucking work out. I don't want I feel so good. My energy feels so good. I'm healthy. I look good. I don't want to go through the rigmarole of dreading getting my fucking sneakers on, fucking going to the gym and doing the thing because I'm going to I feel great. So why do I need to go through that to try to feel great again? And so that's a program that God inserted in me and I let it go. And similarly, like food. I mean, I've driven my wife crazy sometimes with how clean I eat. And I'll go through seasons of it. And I finally stopped caring. And it doesn't mean I just eat shit all the time. It's like I try to make healthy choices when they're available. That's what I eat. I prefer that. I know my body operates better on it. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Everything's on the table at this point. Talking about the table.
Everything's a belief.
And exactly. And, we were dropping my daughter off and we were kind of going through the food court and I was hungry and I kind of wanted something quick. And there was a slice of pizza, a place that sold slices. I got the fucking meat lovers. Like, I just wouldn't do that. Yeah. And I fucking ate it, enjoyed it. It didn't have any kind of feelings that it wasn't exactly what I needed. And so I started to question all these things. And I started to have the felt experience of not only that everything is energy and that I am truly creating my own reality. I've been creating it my entire life. I was just unconscious of that. Yes. Now I'm conscious of it. And now when I go to eat the piece of pizza, sure, the thought comes in like, should you? The ego's like, hey, motherfucker, like, this guy, it's like, no, look, if I have the shits or whatever, okay, it's information that it didn't agree with my body. I can live with that. But it's like, what else what else have I believed without a true felt experience? Because I may say, well, I feel better on this, but it's like, I feel better on it because I believe I feel better on it. I started to have this understanding about supplements within the last year. And so I just stopped taking them. And then I would start taking, the Mana Shilajit because I just liked it. The way those guys, and I've had them on my podcast, the integrity of that product, I just felt so much beautiful, positive energy coming in. So it's like, yes, that's about the only thing I take. I do a mushroom microdose with the Eons dialed. It's an Amanita microdose. It hits the GABA receptors differently than psilocybin. You can take it every day. I don't feel anything, but over the course of 3-4 weeks, everything opened up for me. This was like back in January. It's very soul revealing. So I take that. And if I forget to take it, I'm not like, fuck, I forgot to take it. I'm like, oh, I haven't taken it for a week. I don't fucking care because I don't need it. I take it when I'm called to. I'll do a little extra hydration sometimes because I feel called to it, not because that's what you're supposed to do. It's like all these things are coming up and I'm like, is it true? Let's find out. Let's play on that other edge. And the more I've done that, the more I've seen that it's all it's all an illusion. It's all what you fucking make it. And I feel so free and I'm just like so curious, like what's the next thing that I'm going to question that I thought was an absolute truth? Because none of it's true unless it's your lived experience, your conscious lived experience. And so I'm just so excited in every day, every moment of my life that I get to just be present to what's happening. And I get present to when the mind wants to come on and figure shit out. And that's the other thing. It's like, oh, I'm not meant to figure it out. I'm meant to experience it and know it from a lived experience. But when I try to figure something out, the soul, the intuition, the gut gets hijacked by the mind. Now, the mind is useful, right? The classic, the mind is a wonderful servant, a terrible master. I understood that. I get it now. And so I try to let the mind come on when it needs to. And when it comes on and when it's not invited, now mostly I feel like I have an awareness of it. So I get to have a conversation with it. Thank you. Stand down at your place. And thank you. Because I've lived with you, motherfucker, as my master, and I am so grateful for it. But you can fuck off right now.
Yeah, dude, bro. So amazing. Once again, dude. I mean, I can feel the remembering coming out of you. And I think it's something that when someone is remembering, of course, it makes you magnetic, because what is everyone here looking for without knowing they're looking for it? Because again, what does the word forgotten mean? It means you don't remember it exists. But there's a visceral feeling that every human will feel when they're around someone who seems to remember a little bit more than maybe they do. And this doesn't make them better, whatever. It actually means they're just subtracting more than they're adding most of the time. So it's actually completely against the typical way the world looks at success or fulfillment or whatever. But, you know, one of the interesting things that you said was, you know, this idea of like, you know, going into things with the belief of like, how do I really know if this is true or not? Right. And this is something that I've really been obsessed with recently as well, which is that, you know, I've gone through the exercise addiction. I've gone through like the forcing my friends to bring the fucking juicer and a car converter to a goddamn music festival. I was about to go do, you know, plant medicine for 4 days. I'm like, I need my juicer. I can't miss a day of juicing. Right. So I've been there, done that. And, you know, again, like, it's just like the biggest killer of anything, if we're going to talk about it, is stress. So like, okay, let's say you want to bring your juicer to a music festival. All right. What's more stressful? Having to deal with a 16-hour drive where it smells like farts in the car from your juicer and all your friends giving you shit, or just not doing a fucking juice for a couple days, right? Like, what's the actual worst thing? And you look at people like, this is something that really hit me about, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago. You know, I realized I had this belief that my body was weak. You know, because there was this thing of like, oh my God, you know, if I got a pain in my body, it's like, oh my God, what is that going to be? Oh my God. And then I had to remind myself, like, Ryan, there's people like Joey Diaz in the world that banged cocaine for fucking years. They're overweight and they're in their 50s and having a blast. So the human body is a lot more resilient than we might give it credit for, that I gave it credit for. And as a result, it allowed me to like, just relax, dude. Like, you've got this so dialed in that you never even need to worry about falling off the horse that much. And if anything, falling off the horse or whatever that is actually great, because it reminds you of now why you consciously choose to be healthy or eat good or whatever it is. You know, I saw someone talking about the other day, and I totally believe this, because I'm a holistic health fanatic. I coach, I do all this stuff, and I really am who I say I am. I live it. But every once in a while, I want to go party and do some Molly with my friends and stay up all night and fucking get little sleep. And I do that for a couple of days, right? I do Molly one day and the next day is always kind of weird. But again, like, I realized that the reason I love partying like that is because it's the polarity difference. If I'm really fucking dialed in all the time, then I need something equally opposite in order to find the balance. So if I go let loose for a day and really just let myself live, all right, then the next day I'm going to yearn to want to go back to my structure. It's not going to be that I'm putting rules on myself. That's going to be what's exciting next. And so again, like in your case, you had been working out for so long that it stopped being fun. And you were just forcing yourself to do something that wasn't fun. And the food thing, it wasn't coming from a place of like, no, I just really love this food and it's awesome. It was coming from a place of like, I don't want to be unhealthy, so I'm going to eat this food, right? And that's exactly what I had going. And I think that's what a lot of people have in the holistic health space, because I see it too. I mean, if you spot it, you got it. So it's been very interesting to me being able to like for instance, I've never really liked alcohol. It just doesn't really work for me. But every once in a while, we're in Italy, better believe I drank wine. I'm not going to tell myself, I'm not going to create these identities for myself like, oh, I'm sober or whatever, because that's not really the answer. The answer is, can I in the moment choose something that feels conscious to me? And the thing that you said that really is like the ultimate, you know, bow on top is that you had been going through your life always creating, but now you're consciously creating. And this is what I experienced in 2019 in Las Vegas, where I was in a strip club and did Molly with Rachel, and this realization came to me, which is God's sense of humor, that now every time I bring up one of the most powerful moments in my life, it has to be in a fucking strip club of Molly. But that's, you know, God having a sense of humor. But basically, like, I won't tell the whole story, but basically it came to a point where I realized, until I accept accountability for all of my creations, I cannot experience the beauty on the other side of being a conscious creator. And I think that's why so many people get fucked up, because they're still blaming their parents. They're still blaming their ex-girlfriend or boyfriend that cheated on them, that made them mad. They're giving their power away. They make me so mad. This food makes me feel like, it's like, no, it's none of that. You are creating all of this. And until you accept that, and until you take accountability and ownership over it, you'll never experience the bliss on the other side, the freedom on the other side of being like, hey, if I got mad at what that person said, it was me. It had nothing to do with them. It's something that triggered in me. You can't get to that level if you're unwilling to accept that accountability and ownership like you did in your Aya ceremonies and after 2017. That's what it took for you to be able to get to this point right now, and that is so powerful, because that is like, the other thing that I've been really thinking a lot about is simplicity versus complexity. Simplicity is the language of God. Complexity is the language of the ego. But actually, simplicity feels complex in today's world because we're so used to something being like, oh, if I want to make money, I got to go to school for 8 years and become a doctor, all this complexity, right? So when we hear simplistic things, it actually is like, no, it's got to be more complex than that. And so at the end of the day, simple doesn't necessarily equate to easy, but simplicity is the language of God. And that's how I'll always tell in a plant medicine ceremony what kind of entity is talking to me. Like, is this the Holy Spirit, or is this just some fucking goofy entity? If it's like, well, you must do all these rituals and blah, it's like, nah, it's probably an entity. If it's like, what it was one I got that was so powerful, and it was like one of those ones that was like, oh, it was just this. It was whatever you believe you become. And I got that download, and I was one of the first big mushroom ceremonies I'd ever done, and I was expecting some big calculus fucking formula, and that's what I got. And I came out of it kind of pissed. And then as I started to come down and I started to slow down in the next couple of years, I was like, whoa, that is really it. There is no objective reality here. Just like quantum physics says, there is no right or wrong. There's just subjective right and wrong and subjective truth. And if we can go into life that way and not try to make others wrong and ourselves right, then we can learn so much that about what God actually came here to do, which is have different experiences, have different opinions, have different stories. So my ultimate kind of mission at this point is to really have fun with that. To notice anytime my mind is trying to be like, yeah, well, maybe you just don't have it figured out. Like, no, because I don't have anything figured out either. I know nothing. I can believe things and I can know them for myself, but I know nothing objectively. And when you get to that point, it's like Christmas morning every morning. Because what was the best part about being a kid on Christmas? It wasn't opening the gifts, wasn't playing with them. It was coming down the stairs, knowing there was gifts with your name on it, but not knowing what they were yet, sitting in between that. And so if we can come to everyday life like that, being like, hey, I think I know what diet works for me, but hey, I could find a new one tomorrow. If everything is mysterious, I think that's why you win. And I think that's why the Bible says, if you want to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must first enter the mind of a child, because the mind of a child doesn't need to be right. It's just curious. That is the ultimate muscle of God. That's what I feel. So it's just very interesting, dude. All these synchronicities. I'm like, holy shit, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah, dude. You're totally. And I love that. The curiosity. Like, there's a bunch of things that you can carry from this, but it's like one of the greatest gifts I had was the gift of curiosity that came to me as I started doing the podcast. I wasn't super curious before that. I was interested in things, but I was pretty black and white. I had this sense that I needed to know what was right, what was wrong, all of this. And as I started to open up to curiosity, it's like, again, it's an intellectual thing until it becomes a felt experience of like, again, like Ram Dass says, everything is just a happening. And it's like, holy fuck, does life get easy? And it's, for me, and I'm sure there's many different ways to say what we're searching for, but ultimate freedom. And I think a lot of us are brought up in this society thinking that it just equates to financial freedom and you're good. It's like, I've had it for a number of years and it ain't free. Like, you are in your own fucking prison until you get that sorted out. And so just this idea of how can I become more free? And for me, it was learning my blind spots. It was being okay with them. It was accepting them on at the level that I could accept them on in that moment. It was like convincing myself, even though I really wasn't, it was just like tricking myself into accepting. And I think if you continue to show up at the altar with that prayer, it gets more and more clear until I think you pop through and you feel it, you live it, and then you understand what all these enlightened motherfuckers are talking about. And it's like, I can only say that today, and I'm sure there's more to uncover. I know there is. And the words, again, fail to describe what my lived experience is right now. And I get to share that version of me with all the people I love. And even the people that I don't quite love yet, but I'm working on it. I've come a long way in letting go of the judgments, someone at face value, because the politics or the whatever just don't make sense to me. In this transition, I've really tapped into love for them, just like there were people that had love for me when I was, a bit untethered and not sure, and I was just trying to do the best I could, and I hadn't done the work, and I didn't have the language, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And it's like, I fucking get it. I've been at every fucking stage that everybody's at, in some degree. And so I have a deep reverence for everyone who's on the journey, and that includes everyone, even people that are doing some fucking horrible shit. Objectively, there's an amount of love for them. I think it'll grow greater because I'll have a better understanding. But it's just opened me up. It just releases all of that tension, and letting other people affect you. You talk about bringing the juicer on the weekend festival and all that. Like, it's like, imagine you left the house, you forgot it. You're fucked up the whole weekend because you don't have it. And it's like, it brings to mind what one of my dear mentors, his response to basically everything is, and he's such a fucking beautifully intellectual mind, and he's so in his heart. He has like the full spectrum. And whenever like we'd share in a circle after a journey or whatever, and someone would be saying something where someone might be like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He literally would say, amazing. He fucking validates everything you're feeling. And it's like, I finally understand it. It's like, this thing is happening. Amazing. What am I meant to learn? Yeah. And it could be really shitty. And I'm not saying I'm going to be fucking with a smile on my face because it's happening, but at least I know now, amazing. There's something on the other side of this. I don't know what it is, but boy, am I going to be fucking surprised when I find out.
Dude, it's so true, man. One of my favorite quotes of all time is love is the answer. Now, what was the question? Because every time, like, I'll tell you something that happens every mushroom trip, right? So I'll go through like my, challenges or whatever, scream, cry, whatever, all the, challenging stuff, opportunities in disguise, as I like to call them. And then there'll come a point where my inner child just wants, like, I'm a speaker. I love sharing and I love talking. And as I talk, like, flow just comes to me. It's like how like my object stays in motion. And so when I've been in silence for a while, there comes that cue where that dog in me is like, dude, like, tell Rachel what you're experiencing. And then as I start to try to say it, it closes off. And I play this funny game of God where God's like, buddy, you have all the info you need right now. You don't need to tell anyone. I'm like, but I want to. And God's like, well, if you do, it's going to close off. And it's just these funny games, right? And so, like, again, like what I've done my best to embody in every day, no one's perfect, but what I've done my best to embody is the idea of like, whatever's happening is meant to happen. And I get to find the lesson or the reason why it's happening. That's the ability of me to be the creator of my reality. And it gets to be fun because if we can understand that essentially we all went to an amusement park together, all right? And we're all riding the rides together and we're having fun. And then at certain points, some rides break. Some of us go home before other people. It can be very challenging, right? Like, oh man, I wish Cal was still here to ride the ride with me, or I wish my grandmother was still here to ride the ride with me, or whatever it is. But if we can remind ourselves that we're still going to see him when we get home, then yes, our humanness can still be bummed that we don't have them at the park with us right then, but we can feel grateful in the fact that not only do we get to see them again, but also that pain we feel, the pain we feel around anyone in life, anything in life, also reminds us we're alive and also reminds us that things actually mattered to us and people actually mattered to us. And I think that's so beautiful because, again, like, as the creator of my reality, I would rather have that be my story. Like, I got to witness some family members go through some extremely challenging things, depression. I mean, things of like when people would die, they would just shut down. And for a while, I felt bad for them. And then I realized, no, I'm grateful for them because they chose to sign up to show me and other people and also themselves what would happen if I also chose that same story. And so in a way, so like our greatest adversaries, right? The people doing horrible things, they're also the ones that are turning us into the Luke Skywalkers of the world. And would Luke Skywalker have been Luke Skywalker without Darth Vader? You know, and so if when in doubt, zoom out, right? If you zoom out and you look at this from God's perspective, great spirits down for whatever. And yes, it doesn't mean that we're supposed to feel neutral to everything. No, we're supposed to take a side because we're living in an illusion of duality. So if we choose that side of positive polarity and we choose to go towards the light in service to others and we choose to remember our wholeness, we need, in a way, something on the other side reminding us of why we're not going to that side. And so I think right now, the beautiful thing is, if you've seen Independence Day before, when, you know, shit's going to hell in a handbasket and the president goes to Area 51 to go down there and be like, oh, how's stuff going down here? The world's fucked up there. And the guy with the gray hair is like, oh my God, I've never had this much fun at work. We've had this spaceship for like 30 years and it's been a piece of shit. But now all these buttons are turning on and all this amazing stuff's happening. That's how I feel like all we, the ones that have been doing the work, the ones that are starting to become more and more aware, eternal students, of course, but we're becoming more and more aware. We're starting to realize the world's not worse than ever. We're just more aware as a collective than ever. And yes, for a lot of people, they might be just starting to realize they're poison in the skies, poison in the food, that pedophilia is a thing. Like they might be just be coming into this. And so they're going to probably need our support and being like, hey, it's okay. All right. Like this is all happening for a greater good and we get to create why. And we don't want these things to happen, of course. So if any of us could choose for them to never happen again, I'm guaranteed we would choose it. But it is what's happening right now. If it's happening, there's got to be a reason for it. And we get to create that reason. And I think that's just so beautiful, man, to be able to live in that kind of reality. You know, it's just so powerful, dude.
It is, man. It's like, again, to bring up Ram Dass again, it's like we create our own suffering. When we have resistance, we don't accept what's happening. It creates all that tension. I forgot the juicer, and it's like I don't have the juicer. That's just, and when we have that orientation, the universe provides, and it's like something else fills that spot that you're like, that is so fucking magical. Of course, that's why I forgot that. Like, I wasn't meant to have the juicer, because it's like, and when we can trust in that, and again, back to my 5-MeO experience, it allowed me to just trust. It allowed me to listen, not with my ears, but with my body, my soul, whatever you want to call it, and just trust that. Because that has been a beautiful guiding light in the few moments that it showed up, when I allowed it to show up earlier in my life. And as it comes more online, not only do I seek a truer path for what feels right for me, but my life has gotten exponentially easier because I'm not up here. This mind is so energy consumptive. And I didn't realize it until I was able to turn it off to a large degree. And it's like, holy shit, everything feels lighter. You sleep better. You're more present. You're just here because the shit's not running in the background 24/7.
I mean, dude, it's the difference between trying to look at the stars in the middle of New York City and trying to look at it in the rural area of Maine. You know, It's like same sky, you would think, but you actually don't see anything in New York. You might think you do. You're like, oh, I see a couple stars. I'm totally seeing the stars. But then as soon as you get somewhere where it's really dark, you're like, holy shit, I can see the Milky. That's the Milky Way? I didn't even know that fucking thing was real. I had seen the pictures, but I had never seen it, you know? And it's, again, it's so beautiful because, again, like the best things in life, I'm going to quote that song, are free, but the best things in life are so simple, right? Like, the connection between going somewhere rural in Maine, let's say, or going to the vineyard, Martha's Vineyard, and being able to see the stars and connect that to also like, whoa, what does that mean about me? And so there's mystery everywhere. But I think as we get older and the ego starts to take over, right, because we don't know any better, we start to go outside and we just walk by the trees and we've seen them before, whatever. You know, and I think what plant medicine can do, and other things too, but plant medicine is a very jolting experience. Is like, I could go out to the same tree I walk by every day for my whole life and be like, oh my God, and be infatuated with that tree for 8 hours. Totally forget my phone exists, totally forget the outside world exists, and just be there with it, looking at its bark, doing whatever. And it reminds me that like the mystery's still in me. Mushrooms didn't just do anything. They just revealed something. They took some of the papers off the table and reminded me how beautiful it is to look at the world through the eyes of a child where everything is new. Yeah, I might have seen a tree before, but it's not that tree. Or I've seen that tree before, but not today in this moment. It's just so powerful, dude, and this is, I mean, my favorite part of being alive is, like you said, having these conversations and being able to learn so much, because we really are all walking each other home. We're all mirrors for each other. We're all one being playing a game of something this year. And so the more that we can connect with ourselves to open up like, whoa, like this is all crazy and awesome, to the level that we can do that, we'll meet other people that will help us remember, and we'll help them remember. And if we forget, they'll help us remember. And if they forget, we'll help them remember. And that's really like the positive reciprocity that we have the opportunity to give each other. And you're right. Like, it happens in some of the simplest things. Like, I'm all for the strict ceremonial structure and whatever, but also, you know what, like eating mushrooms around a fire with my guy friends and cracking jokes is equally enlightening for me than some of the most intensely strict ceremonies I've been in. And again, it's just, why did you believe that you had to wear white robes to reach God? Because that God doesn't believe any of that, it's like, so it's just funny to see all these areas in which I restricted my own perspective on life. It's actually hilarious, to be honest. Like, it's actually the actual cosmic giggle of this experience is realizing, oh, it's me. I've been the problem. But also, if I'm the problem, I can be the solution. And actually, both sides of that are fun, because remembering isn't that fun unless you've really forgotten. Straight up.
Yeah, dude. And I'm glad you brought up the example of, ceremony doesn't need to look a particular way. And I think certainly when you get in the space, you feel like that. You're like, that's cool. I'll do all the things. I'll put on all the costumes and, and all that. And it's fun for a while until it's like, it just does, like, you're like, what am I, how do I look? Do I look as good as every, like,
yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
And then, I think when you're in it enough and aware enough and are curious enough, you start to have full-blown journey experiences at 1:00 in the morning on a Saturday night with 6 people, and it was with some recreational drugs, and all of a sudden it's as profound as 3 nights of sitting with the grandmother. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's all available if you're open to it.
Mm-hmm. 100%. I mean, think about it, right? Like, would God want its children to not wake up? Like, no, God's rooting for us. So he's going to put the reminders everywhere. It's just we have to be present enough to actually see them, and that's why plant medicine works, because it demands presence. Like, try taking ayahuasca and like going on your phone. Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So really, is it even the plant medicine doing it? Is it just the fact that for some ungodly reason, ayahuasca and these other plant medicines just force us to be with ourselves for a long enough time that we can crack through to what's always there? I mean, this is a question I ask myself, right? I still utilize psychedelics. I love them because, again, I'm still a human. I'm still figuring it out. I get sucked into the false world and I enjoy it. Because it's so much. I mean, it just is really fun to explore these polarities and just have the human experience, as messy as it can be. Because at the end of the day, I got to imagine, another idea, and I'll wrap up with this, but another idea that came to me one time was the idea, because God talks to me in comedy. And so this idea came to me that we know about extreme sporting, right? And so for a while I was like, man, it'd be cool to skydive, but I'm terrified of heights. It'd be cool to mountain bike, but I just don't have the balls to do it to the level that people in Moab do it or whatever. And, one time I was feeling down on myself, like, man, am I not as extreme as I once was? And then it hit me. I was on a dose of acid when this happened, which acid is the most hilariously punny medicine out there. But it basically hit me that we're all ethereal extreme sporters. Like, think about it this way, right? You think we signed up to be a human right off the bat? Definitely not, right? Think about, we're in oneness, all right? We're just existing. And a part of the oneness comes back from experiencing somethingness. And it's like, dude, I went down there and I microdosed. I was what's called a fly. And I was down there for like, I don't know, what they say in time is like 7 days. It was crazy, dude. But then I got smacked and I'm back here. But I think I'm going to try a little bit bigger of a dose next time. I think I'm going to be a bird, right? And so now you go down and you see this friend coming back. He's like, dude, it's getting crazier and crazier. And so you're like, all right, I'll go down and I'll be a turtle. So I'm going to have a very chill life, but like for a long time. I'm going to get to look around. And eventually you have to keep up the ante, right? And eventually you're like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to be a human. And that's where you've reached the ethereal extreme sporting level. And so for anyone listening right now, regardless of what you think about your life or whatever, realize you are an extreme sporter of the ethereal world, you know? Like we've already won in a big way, just being able to have the human experience, because think about it. Animals and things like that. I mean, I'm not an animal, at least in this, meat suit or whatever. So I don't know for sure, but it seems like when I watch my dog, he's not aware of being aware. He's not aware of all the things we're talking about. So what an interesting experience to be like, we are God, but we're not showing up as God physically right now in the stream, but we're going to have faith that we're God, and we're going to be aware of what we're aware of. And we're also aware that everything out there is not really real, but it looks really real. Like, it's a crazy experience. It's really insane.
Yes.
It really is. So it's just wild to think about these things.
Well, I love that example too, because I was even thinking you were going to go, like when you go into these plant medicine ceremonies, as an example, there are fucking guys jumping out of planes that would never do that. So like, literally. It's like, again, we're getting into the programming of, I'm with you. I don't like heights. I'm not doing the mountain biking like these guys. And there was a time where I would be like, hey, you're kind of a pussy, man. Yeah. Like, come on, like face your fears, all that. No, there's a time for that. But like, I face them every time I sit with the grandmother, or I, sit with the toad, or in other ways.
Relative.
And I think when we understand that it comes, this courage and vulnerability comes in many different suits, we start to understand that.
Yeah.
100%. At least for me, that's been my experience.
I totally agree. It's relative in nature, right? And again, like, it's so funny that we get stuck in our stories of like, well, that's extreme sporting over there, but what I'm doing, no, that's not considered that because no one's ever called it that. It's like, well, do you want it to be that? Then just call it that. Abracadabra. Now it is.
How about the guys who, fuck hookers? They're married. They fuck hookers all the time. It's like, that's way more fucking scary than what terrifying. I'm doing with ayahuasca.
Yeah, no, literally.
Holy shit, dude.
I know, dude. I literally, dude. You were going to say?
No, I was going to say, like, but that's not considered, they're not considered on the same level as the guy jumping out of planes, where it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That'll fuck your whole life up.
100%. And you might lose half of everything you own. Your kids might disown you. Like, that actually might be the most terrifying thing you could possibly do.
We're programmed to, that's kind of normalized.
Yeah. It's wild, dude. Cal, you're the friggin' man, dude. I could keep talking to you all day. I want to be respectful of your time, but man, where can people find you? I know you already said you don't want to go viral, so where can people find you if they want to reach out, just say a positive word, anything like that? Where can I send people, man?
I love it. Yeah. Assuming my Instagram's still up when this comes out, Cal.Callahan. And then my podcast is called The Great Unlearn. I have a website, thegreatunlearn.com. Kind of find everything there.
Dope.
Yeah, man.
Awesome, man.
It's been fucking amazing. Dude. I'm so glad you reached out yesterday, and I'm like, I got fucking something to say. And I'm traveling on Thursday for like basically a month, and you're getting ready to leave. So I'm like, oh, I hope he has something tomorrow. And you did. And it's like, thank you.
Thanks, God, for this great layup. It's amazing, dude, and I got one last question for you. I like to ask everyone that comes on the show, all right, just to put a nice button on this. And that question is, let's say someone listens to this show and wants to start highly optimizing their life starting today. What is the one piece of advice that you would offer them to allow them to manifest that goal and start creating a highly optimized life today?
Stop trying to figure it all out and just pay attention. When you forget the juicer, instead of beating yourself up about it and feeling the lack of not having the juicer, say amazing or awesome and bless that you forgot that for a reason, and it makes space for something that you can't even comprehend on the other side.
Dude, I love that, because what we are seeking is also seeking us, right? Our higher selves are always trying to be like, dude, that's actually like way less of like what you could have. And we're like, no, we're trying to hold on to our limitations for dear life, white knuckling. No, it's got to be deeper. So funny, dude. I love that, man. Well, Cal, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, thank you for hanging with us. Cal is absolutely amazing, as you guys can tell. He's one of my favorite humans in the world. Please go check him out. Go to his website, hop onto his podcast. He's got amazing interviews out there. He's interviewed Lance Armstrong, a bunch of really cool cats, and he's a great interviewer as well. He's got a very open heart, and that really comes through in his show. So go check it out. If you loved this episode, give us a 5-star review. Helps us get the show out to more awesome people like you, which we are looking to find. And until next time, everybody, may the source be with you to infinity and beyond. Peace for now. Bye.